I believe that for a person like me, a person of my nature, it is the most difficult thing about getting myself to do something is finding a motivation. And I think the few things that I'm about to talk about in the next, I don't know, 15, 20-ish minutes again, are perfect stories and examples of finding a motivation and finding a reason to do something. And sometimes it leads to achievement, sometimes it doesn't, but it all depends on finding the motivation to try and do it. So here we go. So I think that my career as a tennis player was actually one of the least successful things that I've ever attempted to do. In fact, it's just comparable to the complete and utter failure that my YouTube channel has so far been, even though I'd like to personally thank each and every one of the 150 people that were stupid enough to click that subscribe button beside my name. But never mind that. I feel like tennis was something that I wanted to do, but at the same time I felt forced to do. And I feel like if I had thought about what I was doing before, and I had put more actual physical and mental effort into it, I feel like it would have been much better. I mean, I was good. I made my way up to number 42 in Ontario, and that's a province in Canada if you're not aware. And I think that's good. But at the same time, I feel like with the amount of time that I devoted to tennis, I feel like it could have been much, much, much better. And the ironic story comes when a couple weeks ago, I went to the Rogers Cup, and it was the last day that I went there. I went there 3 days. I got there early because there was no trains that went when the actual tournament was starting. And so I actually showed up at the center court before even the first match, the official match, began. But a funny thing that happened is that they host junior matches of the day, and the match, as soon as the two kids walked on, I was already jaw dropped because I recognized that I wasn't even sitting that low down. I was sitting in one of the worst seats that you could find. But even from there, I knew it was this kid. And as soon as they said his name, I was 100% sure. This guy, it was one of my last years playing tennis, and it was at some anonymous tennis club, if you will. I'm not gonna. It's useless to know where it actually was. And I was playing with this kid who was like 4 or 5 years younger than me. And when I was there, at least, I mean, he was pretty bad. I mean, even, it's weird to say, he was very odd because he would get me, whenever we played each other, he would get me to play his game, which was just lobbing the ball over the net and playing like 500 shot rallies to win 1 point where no one would ever miss. He would get me to play that sort of game, even though I knew that I wasn't consistent, I needed to play aggressive. And that's where any of my success, if I had any, actually came from actually playing aggressively. And unfortunately, I just don't know what happened. He was the son of the person that was running the club. I mean, he's running the summer camp or whatever it was. And he would always get me to play his game, and it was unfortunate. And sometimes we would have close games, and I would beat him most of the time, at least when I was playing there. But I could tell he was getting better, and by the end, he actually was developing some sort of an idea of how to beat me. Now, that's when I realized that it wasn't that great, because a kid who was like 11 years... No, he was 11 when I saw him, so he was like 9 or 10. He was finding ways to beat me when I was like 14 or 15. And I can clearly say that I'm not big size-wise, but I'm big height-wise. And so with things like my serve and aggressive shots, I should have been killing this kid if I actually were to play my game. And so that's what happened. But as I was basically quitting tennis, I saw that he was so motivated and passionate about tennis. And he would just play and play and play and play, and just whenever we did the beep test, if you don't know what that is, when you get beeps and you have to run from side to side and the beeps get faster, and yeah. he would actually just compete with kids that were like 18 years old. I would be out around level 11, which is actually pretty good, and he would go with like the 18-year-old dudes until like level 15, and he was ridiculous. And even though he wasn't that great at tennis, in my opinion, he was working insanely hard at it. And I felt like the reason why I'm reverting back to that is because as soon as they called his name when he walked onto the court, they said he was ranked number 1 in Ontario, number 1 in Canada, and he plays international tournaments. That was, at the same time, it felt ironic, but at the same time, it felt like, well, he deserves it. And that's the thing, because while I was feeling like I was forced, I mean, tennis was a thing I was, enjoying, yeah, let's go play tennis again. I felt like, I was playing it and I was benefiting from it. I mean, back then, I think I was more fit than what I am now. I could run forever and not stop. And right now, I'm getting ready for my secondary black belt karate testing, like fitness testing, and I feel like I cannot do the requirements. Back then, I think I could have been able to do them. And I felt like I was benefiting, but at the same time, I felt like I could have been doing anything in that nature and still have been enjoying it. And I felt like one of the reasons why is because I didn't find a good enough motivation to get me through those drag periods of time where it was just like, let's practice some more, let's yell and argue with my dad again, let's practice some more, and that is one of the most superior examples of finding motivation, because in this case, I wasn't able to do it. I felt like, it was all good and stuff, but it was, in the end, what was the decision for quitting tennis was the fact that I had achieved almost nothing. I mean, 42 in Ontario is good and all, but I'm pretty sure I didn't win a single actual tournament that was worth something, which is unfortunate. Even then, I didn't feel, me and my family didn't feel like enough money of it all was paying off, and that's just the unfortunate truth that in some, at least in my family, money was a restriction. And after seeing me again fail miserably and yell and throw shit, we decided to call it quits. And so that's the story of my tennis. And I feel now, watching it back, I'm really back into it now. I watch it, I think, even too much. I feel like now that I'm back into it, I wish I had matured a little bit sooner and found a reason to dedicate some time to practicing and developing skills, if you will. And so that's a perfect example of where I could not succeed because I didn't find a good enough motivation to keep doing it. Now, moving into a little bit of a more positive side, I've been, ever since I moved to Canada from Russia when I was 7 years old, ever since then, I think it was the first Christmas or New Year's I was there, I got an electric piano from my dad, and I just played it for days and nonstop. For like a month, I had no clue what I was doing because I didn't have any lessons, and I was just playing it, and I was like, that's amazing, and then I started taking lessons, and at the same, this is why I'm where I am with piano today. Like 99% of the people that quit piano quit because the first few levels are the most boring things that you'll ever do. And it's the most truthful fact that exists about any sort of musical instruments. The first few levels suck. They're awful, they're boring, they're annoying. But the reason I kept doing them is because as an add-on to the work that I was doing to try and complete those levels, I was also just playing for fun so much. And I feel like this also comes with a little bit of a gift. I mean, I skipped levels 1, 2, and 3. I went straight from preliminary to grade 4. And so at least I had the chance of skipping most of the annoyingness. But I still feel like reaching grade 6, you still get real pieces that have been reformatted to be more suitable for non-skilled players. And that's something that I personally hate, and that's something that my parents personally hate. And that's just it. But piano for me was motivated because I really felt like this was something that I could express myself through. And this, I feel like that's kind of ironic, because as a human being, in relation to other human beings, I'm not that great at expressing myself through words. I mean, sure, I can have a conversation, but it's just not my type of thing. And I felt like this was something that I could really play and share feelings through in a completely 100% real manner. And that's the reason I felt like I should continue. And I got through those first few levels really quickly, because I had my daily like half an hour of piano. But then after all those, what I still feel the most annoying thing about piano is doing scales and exercises. And after all that stuff was done, I would still sit down and play my favorite things, and I would just mess around. And I felt like that was the reason I was doing it all, is so that I could do it better. And I felt like my motivation for playing piano was to express myself better. And now I think looking at the album that I made that not many people have actually watched, was just a collaboration of me playing piano, and then 2 things at the end where I decided to do a cover of 2 songs using drums and things like this. I think looking back at it now, I feel, well, I can take any decent piece, and given enough time, I can learn it and play it. And I feel like that's one of the most privileged things that any musician could do. And I definitely know this for a fact, that I won't be a concert pianist. I cannot. And, well, certainly because I'm just not good enough. I mean, I don't spend enough time on piano. Like the professionals, they go 6 hours a day playing piano. I'm only at 1 hour, plus any messing around that I do. But still, like 7 to 10 hours a day, 10 hours a week of playing piano. I think that's a pretty large amount, but definitely not as much as professionals do. And I feel that's the reason. The one thing that holds me back as a piano player is the technical part of it all. I mean, I can take a simpler piece and I can interpret it mentally, and I can interpret it with emotions as well as any other professional pianist. But as soon as it comes to technical parts where you really need strong hands and you really need technical strength, that's the parts where I suffer. But you know, it all comes with benefits and drawbacks. But you know, piano, it wasn't a thing that just got me to play piano. It also bumped me up. It bumped me up on the educational level. It bumped me up academically, because once you get to higher levels, there's the motivation was still there. I still wanted to. I still right now I want to finish the Royal Conservatory of Music. I mean, I sort of did. I finished grade 10, but there's things after it, like actual certificates that validate you for teaching, and that's what I'm going for currently. But I finished the original 10 grades of the Royal Conservatory of Music, and I felt like that was my motivation for anything until now. That's when it had to change. But once you get to higher grades, there's also written exams that you have to finish, and all that is going outside of school. It's not counting for anything inside school. All I did was for finishing grade 8, I got 1 credit, which means I could take grade 12 and I could take music in grade 12 and just not go to the class because I already have the credit for it, which is what I'm going to do, because I feel that music in my school is one of the most stupid things that anyone has ever came up with, but that's just a personal opinion. And because I wanted to complete this, I had to sort of sidetrack. I had to, instead of playing piano, also do academic written exams. And I felt like now that I've done those exams and I've also gone on student exchange and lived by myself for 3 months, I feel like now I have a better understanding of how to handle academic situations and how to handle time management, because I feel like that was one of the errors that I had during exchange, because I didn't devote enough time to actually doing things that mattered to my school. And so when I came back, I was sort of in a hole, and I really spent some nights not sleeping because I needed to get work done. But I feel like now more than ever I understand the importance of it all, and also because I've done those exams, and because I had to, without anyone telling me to do it, because the books that you have to study to do the exams, in the first page, in like the inside cover, they say, we highly recommend that you take a teacher to do this. We couldn't do that because, 1, we can't really financially afford one. 2, we can't really find one. 3, I firmly believe that I could handle it without one, and that's exactly what I had to prove to myself. And I think I had to do 5 exams, and I still need to do like 5 more for this one certificate that I'm going for. But that's no biggie. Because of all that, I feel like I've gained enough experience. I mean, my first exam was just death. I was struggling in the last couple weeks before the exam to get everything memorized. Luckily, it was the easiest one that I had to do. But then I started to develop patterns, and I started to develop strategies and ideas of how to work with memorizing things. And that's why by the 4th exam, the hardest one by far out of all of them that I had to do, I didn't even feel as unconfident as I did in my first one. I felt like, yeah, I could go in there and nail this, and I knew my strengths and I knew my weaknesses. I knew my weakness was actually memorizing all the facts in the book. My strength was being able to take an idea and elaborate on it so it extended the amount of writing that I did, and I felt like that's what benefited me more. Because on the exam, I got marks off for not including some facts that were important, but I got very good marks for being descriptive. And I felt like, yeah, that was a strength that I had because I managed to develop it over time. And that's how trying to accomplish one thing managed to get me to accomplish other things. And now, after a sort of successful grade 8 piano exam, a disastrous grade 9 piano exam, I went to grade 10 thinking, I can do this, and I can not do this, but I'm just going to play and I'm going to see what happens. And my grade 10, which was the hardest piano exam I've done so far, was by far the biggest success I've had. 86% is comparable to skill level Asian. And I'm not Asian, I'm Russian. And trust me, 90% and higher, at least in the Canadian Royal Conservatory, is for Asians only. That is the 100% correct fact. Only Asians. You look at the honors list on their website that they put up, it's just like Lu, Zhu, Zhu, Zhang. And it's hilarious, but it's so true. And I feel like that's what doing piano got me to do. And the final kind of bittersweet ending for the story is the fact that every single year, a piano teacher organizes a recital where, we play like 1 or 2 pieces that we pick and work on for like a year outside of our programs. And considering that I've completed already so much of the piano curriculum, I'm definitely the person that my teacher wants to showcase to everyone. Like, yeah, take examples from him. And last year, I did really well, and I felt like I played the pieces to the best of my ability. This year, I went in and I screwed it up massively. I made so many mistakes, and I played so bad. It was unreal. And for a long time after the exam, I was just so pissed at myself. But now that enough time has passed, I'm going to look back at it and I'm going to think what I actually did wrong. And now I know what I need to work on. And I feel like this motivation is still there. And unlike the first story, I felt like it was a drag. In this story, I felt like the motivation is still there. Next year, I want to play my pieces perfectly. And that is what all the hundreds of hours that are going to go into. I want to complete the ARCT teachers exams. And I wanted to, next year, I want to play my pieces perfectly for the recital. And those are short-term-ish goals, but they stack up on top of each other, and eventually you'll be setting goals that a person that just starts can't. And this applies to anything. As long as you set some sort of possible and achievable goal that switch by intervals, as long as you set those and focus on them more than anything, it's possible to find a motivation for anything. Just like my little 5-year younger buddy did for tennis, became #1 in Canada. And just like I did for piano and achieved something that very little people actually do compared to the people that start. I feel like that's the thing that I've learned from it all. And hopefully you share my opinions or at least get a little thought out of them too. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and see you guys later, and goodbye.